So it's Easter Sunday, perfect time to go ahead and start prepping the garden for plant out. I got about 2 weeks until I'm going to go ahead and plant everything out. So it's going to give me ample time to get everything set up. Start digging now. I'm going to run my irrigation in the next couple days. I got my order from T-tape coming in on, I think it's Monday or Tuesday. And this is going to give me time to go ahead and get everything dug, get everything prepped, and have about a week or so of buffer time to let everything settle. If I need to change something or get anything else ready, that's going to allow me to have some space so I'm not rushing to get everything put in the ground. So what I'm planning on doing is building four 4-foot by 15-foot rows, and I'm going to offset my planting, so that should give me 15 plants per row. Total of 60 plants, and then I'll have a little bit of extra space. I'm going to go ahead and put some containers in. But what I'm going to do is double dig the garden. I've read a bunch of mixed reviews as far as using tillers or roto-tilling the garden and breaking up a lot of that microorganisms. True, false, whatever. I've heard a lot of great reviews of going ahead and double digging. So that's what I'm going to do. Basically, for my tools, what I have is you can see this area over here is a little bit darker. That's where I had my raised beds last year. But I'm going to expand this out to about 325 square feet. So I need to break up a lot of this grass and dig everything else down deep. So what I have is a regular shovel. I have a transfer shovel, which is got this square head. It's going to be good for compost and moving a lot of the dirt from one place to the other. Obviously, I have a wheelbarrow for hauling the dirt around, and then I have this spading fork, which is going to basically what I'm going to be using once I dig down to turn up the soil down to the bottom of the trench. Also, I may or may not mark with kitchen twine. I've used this a couple times before and marking my garden. I got some bamboo sticks if I decide to go ahead and mark it out, which I probably will just to get a visualization. And then I have a tape measure. It's a necessity if you're going to go ahead and mark everything out, and a regular knife for the kitchen twine. So I'm going to go ahead and start measuring everything out and getting it marked, and I'll be back in a second. All right, now that you got your beds marked, what you want to do is kind of remove the grass first. You don't want to mix that in. The whole point of this double digging is basically that you want to dig down 12 inches, or I'm going to use a shovel head as far as depth. And then once you get down to there, you're going to use your spading fork and kind of loosen up that soil. And what you're going to do is we're going to move all the dirt from this bed right here all the way to the last bed. And so basically how this is going to work is I'm going to dig this bed out down to the basically the hilt here, and I'm going to move all this dirt via the wheelbarrow over to that last bed. And once this bed is bare and I went ahead and spaded it, I'm going to take the dirt that I pull out of this bed, and that's going to go straight into this, and it's going to leave it really nice and fluffy, and it's going to actually stack up pretty high. Once I get that down, then I'm going to go ahead and spread all my nutrients in there in the soil, and then use some compost, and I'm going to mix that compost into the top 2 or 3 inches within the soil. So basically what I like to do is I'm going to use this pointed end, this regular shovel that most people have in their garage. I'm going to kind of loosen up and take the top layer of the sod off. You really don't want the sod mixed in because of a lot of the seeds that are in there, and it'll break down over time. But right now, at least initially, I want to kind of move it off to the side, and you kind of come at an angle, and you just kind of pull it off. And I'm just going to move it to the side, and then you can see that once you pull that off, there's a nice layer of dirt underneath, and that's what we're looking for. That's where we're going to go ahead and start our dig. And right here, this is part of my yard that I haven't ever dug in before or planted in, so this is going to be the most work, is removing that top layer of sod before I go ahead and dig. In this area where it's all, where you see the mulch and it's more darker and there's not a lot of grass, that's not going to be as much of an issue because I can just go ahead and dig down and then remove from hand any of the big clumps of soil. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I got another hour or so of sunlight, so I'm going to do this while it's nice and cool out, and then tomorrow morning wake up and do some more. So once I get this bed dug out, I'll give you I'll let y'all see what it looks like whenever I'm done. All right, so I got the first bed dug. Hey, get out of here! Move, move, move! Go, go! This one took me like right at an hour to do this. Oh, another thing. Gloves. They will save your hands. And about 15 minutes into digging, I wanted to give the transfer shovel a shot. This one, the flathead, as opposed to the normal shovel, and this one worked a whole hell of a lot better. I should have just started with it. It'd probably been done 5-10 minutes faster. It gives you a good scoop, and you can kind of just get under those roots and kind of kick and rip those grass roots up. The soles of my feet took a beating for the past hour, so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this digging process goes. But I think this is going to be the bed that takes the longest, just because this had a lot of an established sod. These other ones, I mean, I can just come over here and not really do that much effort and kind of pull the grass off the top layer right here. That'll take me 10 or 15 minutes to get this one done. So this one started, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and give this one get this one started before it gets too dark. And then maybe tomorrow morning, my dad and I will start digging the rest of them. He's in town for the weekend, so I'm going to put his ass to work. So it's a known fact. Family is good for two things. One, reminding you to enjoy your youth because it sucks to be old. And two, for putting $5 checks in every birthday, Christmas, and Easter card. Well, today I found out that they're good for another thing. When you sleep in, they do all the digging for you. I know, this may be a cop-out to some, but I slept a little bit late due to the little one, and I woke up to this. And you know what? I'm not complaining. So, pretty much, this is like the ideal situation. I'll grab the camera and get in a little bit closer, but you can see that all this dirt's been turned up. He's moved all the dirt over, bed to bed, kind of mixing it all up, and it's really light and fluffy. And once I rake this over, it'll kind of give me a nice layer. And then I'm going to add compost on the top of it and mix it in with all my nutrients. One thing that's pretty cool is I thought I had really crappy soil, but it doesn't look like that is the case. A lot of this is really nice dirt. It kind of retains moisture, but then breaks apart once you grab a hold of it. Once I kind of get it smooth, it's still a little moist from an overnight watering or from an overnight light rain. So once it all really dries out and gets even more and more fluffy, it's kind of really exciting. So the only thing really we had left to do on this is to go ahead and smooth it out, and then add the compost onto the top, mix it in real good with your nutrients. Then I'm going to run my irrigation. Like I said, I hope my irrigation lines or my drip work stuff come in today or tomorrow. I can do this before I have to go back to work, but if not, next weekend I got a nice little project. So here, let me give you guys a closer look. See, you can see that it's kind of nice and dug in, really fluffy, and all I really have to do is kind of rake it out. So there's the 4 beds. So my dad did an awesome thing and helped me dig all these beds out. Well, he pretty much did it all himself while I was sleeping, which is awesome. Thanks, Grandpa. But that doesn't help you guys much. So if you're trying to figure out how to double dig, I kind of dug this last piece up real quick just to give you an idea of the process. It's very simple. It's a lot of labor though. Basically, what you want to do, this is the last bed. As you see, the other 3 are pretty much turned over, and I just got to smooth out these last 2 beds. But what you want to do is you want to get down about a shovel head length deep. So this one's a little bit farther than a shovel head. I mean, that's probably about 10 inches. At this point, it's more, 8 inches, 7.5 inches. Doesn't really matter. What you want to do is once you clear all this out, this one went into this bed. So we have the soil from bed number 1 in my wheelbarrow over there. What we're going to do now is take this spading fork, which is probably one of the coolest gardening utensils I've ever used in my life, and all we're going to do is kind of break up that bottom layer. It's kind of tough because it's been sitting there for years, rained on and settled, and all that we're going to do is kind of just put it in there, kick it down, and pull back, and it just breaks up that soil down there. So this only takes a minute or 2. This is pretty easy. Kind of go all over in our area that we need to dig, and this allows the roots to kind of go down deeper. It aerates the soil. and it doesn't really disturb many of the microorganisms that are down there, you know, earthworms or any of the bacteria or whatever the organisms are that are down there. Kind of work your way around your area. Now you can also do this without having to double dig. You can kind of just pull the soil up and, you know, dig one piece of this right here and move it over, then do this. And if you don't want to go ahead and move the soil from bed to bed to bed, you can just dig a shovel head's length and pull it over to right next to it, and pull, you know, use your spading fork to get the bottom of that soil aerated. Once you're done, two more here, and it gets much easier now that, like, for example, at the beginning it was pretty tough for me to put that spading fork in. Now I can just take a shovel, you know, and I got all of that, you know, it's kind of lifted up. So now that we have that, take our wheelbarrow, and then dump in our dirt. Once we have our dirt dumped in, all we're going to do is start pulling from the top of the bed up there and pull it all the way down here. Kind of smooth everything out. And then once you smooth it all out, which takes, you know, about 10-15 minutes depending on the size of your bed, you break up all those pieces, those clumps of the clay or the dirt, the soil that's from the bottom, pull out any big rocks or clumps of weeds or grass, and you got yourself really nice aerated fluffy soil. All right, so there you have it. I got 4 foot by 15 foot beds dug, double dug. I would say it's probably loose up to about 18 inches or so down, and you can see these two beds have been sitting for a little bit longer than these two. It took me. I just finished kind of spreading out this one, so it'll settle down a little bit more. But it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get some compost delivered, maybe 2 or 3 yards, and I'm gonna go ahead and amend the top of these about 3-4 inches down, just kind of rake it in, and then add my nutrients in. Also, I'm going to run my drip line irrigation. When I get that in, I'll make a separate video on how to install and use T-tape drip line irrigation. And lastly, I'm going to take some weed cloth and kind of cover this up to keep the weeds down, and not use the plastic mulch, so it won't kind of suffocate the soil. It'll keep it real moist and warm. But it's really, really light soil. You can just go ahead and grab. I mean, it just falls apart really nicely. What you want to do is you definitely want to avoid walking on it. I got 2 dogs, and I'm gonna go ahead and kind of tape off the area so they're not running all around and packing it back down. You just did all that work to kind of aerate the soil and make it nice and light and fluffy. And the last thing you want to do is kind of compress that again. So hey, I appreciate you watching. This one was definitely a backbreaker. Thanks a lot to my dad for doing most of the work. Leave me a comment, like, subscribe, and if you got any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.